Geoverse Part 1 To Friend is Human by GeodesicDragon. Chapter 2 Snatched Up. Twilight Sparkle was sitting in Sugar Cube Corner, eating a cupcake. She ate it slowly, still thinking of the sounds she was sure she had been hearing earlier. Was it screaming? She thought. If it was, then who was it?
"Hello, Twilight, are you in there?"
Twilight turned to face a voice. An orange pony wearing a Stetson was giving her a very concerned look. "Sorry, Applejack," Twilight replied. "I was just thinking about something. I guess I was miles away."
"About what, Sugar Cube?"
Applejack inquired.
"Shucks, is it something serious?"
Twilight furrowed her brow. "Well, I'm not entirely sure," she said. "When I arrived here earlier, I'm pretty sure that I heard some strange noises coming from the Everfree Forest." Applejack looked at her for a moment before smiling.
"Pfft, Twilight, it's the Everfree Forest. There's all sorts of mighty strange noises in there, that creepy place."
"Does screaming count?" Twilight said bluntly. The smile vanished from Applejack's face, a look of concern spreading across her face instead.
"Gosh, Twilight, are you sure it came from the forest? You know what Fluttershy's like. A leaf probably landed on her back again."
Twilight stifled her own giggle and shook her head. "No, this wasn't a Fluttershy scream. In fact, it actually sounded more masculine." Applejack raised an eyebrow.
"Now, what kind of stallion would be getting himself into trouble over there?" she asked, unable to keep the confusion out of her voice.
"I don't know." Twilight shook her head again. "But whoever it was, they sounded like they needed help. So I'm going to find them."
"Not alone, you ain't,"
Applejack said sternly.
"I'll round up the others, and we'll help you out."
"Thanks, Applejack. You're a good friend."
"You too, darling. You too."
As Applejack left to find the others, Twilight looked up at the ceiling and sighed. "Whoever you are," she said softly, "and wherever you might be, I hope you're all right." As the 6 friends headed into the Everfree Forest, Twilight couldn't shake the feeling that she was leading them on a wild goose chase. "What if I'm wrong?" she thought. "They probably only believed me because of what happened at my brother's wedding. That doesn't mean I'm always right." Twilight?" The voice brought her back to reality. "How much further is it, if you don't mind me asking?" "I don't know, Fluttershy," she replied. "Whoever or whatever was making the noise appears to be moving, so we need to move as fast as we can." Twilight was at the front of the group, leading them in the general direction of the noise she was hearing earlier. Rainbow Dash was flying overhead, trying to get a better view of the surrounding area. Rarity was behind Twilight, trying her best not to step in the many puddles of mud and leaves which dot the track. Applejack was behind Rarity and didn't seem to mind stepping in anything, much to Rarity's disgust. "Applejack, darling," she stopped and turned. "Could you please stop stomping in the mud like that? You'll get my coat dirty," she pleaded, putting on her biggest puppy dog eyes. Applejack giggled.
"Shucks, Rarity," she replied. "I'd love to, but there's plenty more mud ahead of us, so it's gonna be a mighty big hard for y'all to stay clean."
Rarity groaned. Pinkie Pie was bounding around the group, chatting away happily.
"I hope we find whoever we're looking for and they're safe. That way I can throw them a glad you're okay party. Or if they're hurt, I can throw a get well soon party."
The rest of her words were an incoherent babble. At the back of the group was Fluttershy. She was looking at the ground, but every now and again she perked her head up, as if listening out for something. "Fluttershy?" Twilight turned to look at her. "What on Equestria are you doing back there?" Well, you see, I'm listening out for more cries." "From our injured stallion?" Twilight asked. No. Fluttershy looked away from Twilight's gaze. "Injured animals. If a pony has been hurt, who's to say that whatever hurt them didn't hurt a bunny, or a squirrel?" She let out a squeak. "Or a baby deer." "Oh, Fluttershy," Twilight replied. "I'm sure our stallion was hurt in some other way. I don't think that—"
"Every pony get over here quick and look at this!"
The voice belonged to Rainbow Dash and was full of panic. Galloping over to where Rainbow Dash was, the 6 mares soon found themselves in a forest clearing, with Rainbow Dash standing in the middle of it. She looked up as her friends arrived, the color clearly gone from her face, which was edged with a look of fear.
"Rainbow Dash, what is it? Are you okay?"
Rarity asked. With a shaking hoof, Rainbow Dash pointed down at a spot of grass, soaked red with blood. I had been walking for what felt like hours, but in reality was probably just 10 minutes. No matter how far I walked, the town didn't seem to get any closer. I glanced up at the sky and saw that it was getting dark.
"Shit,"
I said to myself. I'd better haul ass and either get to civilization or find a place to hunker down for the night. As I trudged through the muddy track, I kept thinking about the events that led me to this place. I remembered nearly being hit by a car. I remembered yelling at the driver. I remembered the beating he gave me. I remembered him shooting at me. I felt the wound in my back. Those leaves seemed to have worked for the moment, but since I didn't want to tempt fate, I grabbed another handful of them. At least this way, I thought. If the bleeding starts again, I won't have to shout and scream like a banshee to get some help. The 6 ponies looked down at the large stain before them. It was a deep red and was spreading in a ragged circular pattern.
"I knew it! I knew it!"
A high-pitched squeal followed the equally high-pitched voice. Fluttershy was lying flat on the ground, hiding behind her wings.
"Some creature has butchered a baby deer!"
She started crying.
"A baby?"
Rainbow Dash grimaced.
"It looks like something killed a whole family."
Fluttershy's crying became louder as Applejack looked at Rainbow Dash sternly. She opened her mouth to speak, but her attention was drawn to something nearby.
"Every pony, calm down,"
said Twilight.
"It might not be a deer. It could have come from whatever was screaming."
Girls,"
Applejack's voice had an unusually flat tone to it.
"Get a load of this."
She motioned to some tracks in the dirt. On closer inspection, they were definitely not made by a pony. They were unlike anything any of the 6 had ever seen before. Rainbow Dash brought her hoof alongside it, as if to compare.
"What kind of monster made these tracks?"
Fluttershy couldn't keep the panic out of her voice.
"I don't know,"
replied Twilight. She looked in the direction the tracks were heading.
"But whatever it is, it's headed for Ponyville."
There was a collective gasp of horror from the others.
"If it's heading for Ponyville, then we need to get back there as fast as we can and warn every pony,"
said Twilight, looking at Rainbow Dash.
"Can you fly back there and tell every pony to get inside?"
Rainbow Dash flexed her wings and puffed out her chest.
"You got it, Twilight,"
she said, taking off as fast as she could. Twilight turned to the others.
"While she's doing that, we need to get back to the library so I can send a letter to Princess Celestia."
The urgency of her words could be felt by her friends. As if on cue, they all broke away from the clearing, following the tracks towards Ponyville.
"Now, why in the hay do you need to send a letter to the princess?"
asked Applejack.
"We don't know what kind of creature we are dealing with," replied Twilight. "It could be dangerous, and we might need the elements of harmony to subdue it." "Are you sure it'll come to that, darling?"
asked Rarity.
"I hope not, Rarity." Twilight lowered her head slightly. "But if it does, then we need to be ready."
Rainbow Dash was flying towards Ponyville as fast as her wings will carry her, feeling the adrenaline flowing through her body.
"Come on, Dash. The girls are counting on you to warn every pony in town about the threat,"
she said to herself. As Ponyville came into view, Dash grinned.
"Phew, I made it, and I think I broke my old record."
Looking around, she saw the town hall and Sugar Cube Corner in the distance, but in the forest she saw something else.
"What on Equestria is that?"
she muttered, swooping down for a closer look. The creature before her wasn't like anything she'd seen before. It was walking on 2 legs and appeared to have very little in the way of fur, except for on its head. It was wearing clothes and appeared to be having difficulty walking. As Rainbow Dash got closer, she saw that it was leaving the same tracks Applejack found in the clearing, and that it was covered in blood. She gasped.
"It's a creature! I gotta do something!"
She stopped to think for a moment before getting an idea.
She swooped down above the creature, which seemed oblivious to her presence. Summoning all her strength, she picked it up.
"Now I gotta find Twilight and the others," she thought. "Celestia knows why I'm doing this, though. This thing could be dangerous."
Suddenly the creature below her became aware that it was a few hundred feet above the ground and began screaming and thrashing as Rainbow Dash struggled to hold it.
"Oh, pony feathers! I hope I find the girls soon."
As I walked through the forest, I knew I wasn't going to get into town today, so my new priority became to find a safe place to sleep for the night. In the distance I could make out a large tree with several thick branches that looked capable of supporting my weight. That should do for now, I thought. I certainly don't want to stay on the ground. Suddenly I lost the feeling of the ground beneath my feet.
Damn, I must be really tired.
I stopped moving my legs and tried to bring my hands down to rub my feet, only to find that I couldn't move my arms.
What the fuck?
I glanced down. The sudden realization of being nearly 200 feet off the ground sent me into a screaming frenzy.
"Easy, buddy,"
a voice above me chimed.
"I don't want to drop you, at least not yet."
I stopped screaming and looked up, only to find myself face to face with
a pony?
It had a brilliant rainbow-colored mane as well as a pair of wings. This time, instead of screaming, I simply passed out from shock.